Hi, Hare Krishna. Welcome to this fifth episode of Bhagavad Gita summary series, and today we are summarizing Adhyaya 5th, Karm Sanyas Yoga, the yoga of renunciation. To renounce means to detach or tyag or vairagya in Hindi. So this Adhyaya is basically about two paths that one can follow to attain the supreme. So becoming a sannyasi or becoming a Karma Yogi. So becoming a sannyasi means renouncing all the worldly duties and only focusing on the bhakti of God. And becoming a Karma Yogi means living in this world, doing all the worldly duties as well as your spiritual duties and doing them with the selfless intentions of contributing in this world towards others' welfare and in devotion of God as a sacrifice to God, sacrificing all your duties to God. So while in this world we have a choice to renounce everything including our karma in devotion of God. So Bhagwan here is saying that both the path leads to me, but it's superior to stay in this world and contribute through your karma with selfless intentions. So it's superior to be a karma yogi than to be a sannyasi. He gave a beautiful analogy of lotus leaf. So just like a leaf while in touch with water floats on without getting wet. So the Karma Yogis also remain unaffected by sin while living in this world and performing their karma because they are aware that they are neither doers and nor the enjoyers of their actions. They are aware that soul resides within this body that is like a city with 9 gates. These Karma Yogis, equipped with a vision of equality, they look upon everybody as equal, be it a cow or elephant or dog or Brahmin or a dog eater. They are humble and compassionate towards each and every creature of God. Established internally in the absolute truth, such learned people develop flawless qualities similar to God. And towards the end of this Adhyaya, Lord Krishna then describes the path to sannyas and how they shut out the world and the worldly pleasures. And ultimately they also attain supreme. So now Arjun asking in the first verse of this Adhyaya, O Shri Krishna, you praised Karm Sanyas, the path of renunciation of actions, and you also advised to do Karma Yoga, work with devotions. Please tell me decisively which one is better. Before we dive into this answer that Krishna replies with, let's know quickly here that Arjun has asked 16 questions in the whole Bhagavad Gita, and this is the 5th question so far. So he asked his first question in the second Adhyaya in verse 2.54, which was, what is the nature or personality of a person who is fixed in divine consciousness? One who is sthit pragya, which is steady intellect, and smadhisthasya, one situated in trance. So this was his first question, and the next question came in the Adhyaya 3, which was the first question of this Adhyaya. If you consider Gyan superior to Karma, that means if you consider knowledge superior to action, then why do you ask me to wage this terrible war? Third question also came from the same chapter, same Adhyaya, number 3, and it was 3.36 verse, where he asked his third question, why is a person impelled to commit sinful acts, even unwillingly as if by force? And fourth question came from the 4th verse, where he is asking Krishna, if you were born much after Vivaswan, then how am I to understand that in the beginning of creation you instructed this science to him? And now this 5th question that Arjun has asked is because once again he is confused, because in verse 4.41 and 3.17, Krishna is trying to tell Arjun that those who rejoice in the self, who are illumined and fully satisfied in the self, for them there is no duty. Such people are not obliged to perform actions to contribute in this world if they have self-mastered their minds beyond greed, anger and lust, and they have no delusions anymore about who they are, and they very well know themselves and their dharma and their karma, then they have liberated themselves from the duties in this world, because duties are performed to purify one's mind and soul, and though they keep on doing so for others' welfare. So Arjun wants to know clearly that what he should do about his external fight, what would be better, to fight the war or to take sannyas. And now from verse 2nd until 29th, Krishna talks about both the paths, but primarily Karma Yogi. He says in verse 5.2, both the path of Karm Sanyas and Karma Yogi lead to supreme goal, but Karma Yogi is superior to Karm Sanyas. Both are the right ways, but Karma Yogi is superior. In this world, we have to fulfill our Swadharma as a Karma Yogi. And Swadharma means one's own duties. Duties prescribed to the individual to make his contribution in this world depending upon his sanchit karmas and his gunas. And the Swadharma is of two kinds. The first is Pardharma, which is spiritual duties. So when we consider ourselves to be soul, then doing duties to come closer to Supreme Soul, to love and serve Supreme Soul with devotion. So this is Pardharma. And then we have Apardharma, which is material duties, social duties towards this material world. Duties as a body towards family and society, and mundane duties, our daily routine duties, according to which ashram is one settled in. Maybe it's brahmachari or maybe it's a grast ashram, and one's varna, occupation. So it's considered superior for the individuals or humans to do their respective duties rather than just renouncing those duties and becoming a sannyasi. And in verse 5.3, he's saying, Karma yogis keep doing their duties in detachment. They are neutral in liking or hating their work. They just keep doing it as their dharma, as their duties. In verse 5.4, he's saying, only the ignorant think that these two paths are different. The wise souls know that by applying both, we can achieve the results of both. So we should perform our karma or as a karma yogi and be detached with the fruits of those karma and as a karma sanyasi. Sri Krishna has referred to the word Sankhya Yoga in this verse to refer to Karm Sanyas, because such Karm Sanyas should be taken only when the person is situated in knowledge and not just to escape his worldly duties. For some people, work seems burdensome and difficult, so they renounce the world to get rid of their responsibilities. They run away from difficulties, but then they find spiritual duties also difficult or cumbersome, so again they run back to the worldly life. So this type of renunciation or vairagya is Falgu vairagya, and the other is Yukt vairagya. In this Yukt vairagya, the person sees whole world as energy of God. They don't feel any ownership or belongingness to what they possess. They feel that nothing in this world is theirs and everything belongs to God. They are self-satisfied and get motivated to serve God for whatever He has given to them. They are stable in their minds and find difficulties as opportunities to purify their mind and souls and serve God. Karma yogis think of themselves as servants of God and are full of gratitude for what the Master has bestowed them with. So with their consciousness fixed in God, they feel pleasure in doing everything for His pleasure. Externally they are worldly people, but internally they are no less than sannyasis. So Krishna is saying that being in Grast ashram also, you too can be a Karma yogi, which is superior to taking vairagya and becoming sannyasi. Next verse 5.5. Supreme states that can be attained by becoming a sannyasi can also be achieved in Grast ashram by becoming a Karma yogi. And in verse 5.6 he goes on saying, because the path to completely renouncing the world is very difficult. It's really hard to attain perfect renunciation or vairagya without performing any action. Even while engaged in daily mundane activities, a vairagi or karma sannyasi has to rise above anger, greed or desire, while performing his spiritual duties with all kinds of people around him. So Krishna is suggesting that while doing one's duties in this world, a person should slowly learn to rise above greed, anger and desire. Only when one learns to deal with the difficulties of performing their dharma in this world with the attitude of devotion and gratitude that their minds and souls get purified and they attain supreme. A Karma yogi gets experience in this world which matures into wisdom. So Karm Sanyas is difficult to reach without becoming a Karma yogi because we cannot escape from actions as long as we are in this world. Next verse 7, 8 and 9 is saying, Karma yogis never think of themselves as the doers, even if they are engaged in activities like passion, shravan, sprashan, jigran, gacchan, swapan, swashvan, pralapan, visarjan, grihanan, unmission, nimission. And what he means by this is seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, moving, sleeping, breathing, talking, excreting, accepting or receiving, opening eyes or closing eyes. So they know that these are just the movement of senses among the sense objects. And by sense objects he means things or people or experiences in this world which the senses can see or hear or smell or touch or feel, because we can experience this world only through these five senses. In this 10th verse of this 5th Adhyaya, he is comparing a Karma Yogi to lotus leaf, and he saying, those who give their actions to God, abandoning all attachment, remain untouched by sin, just as a lotus leaf is untouched by water. And in Hindu and Buddhist scriptures, lotus is considered very auspicious. So he's comparing the beauty of a lotus leaf to a Karma Yogi. So the beauty of lotus leaf is that its origin is from water, and water is responsible for its birth and growth and nourishment. It gets everything from water, and it floats on the top of water. Still, it does not permit itself to be wetted by any single drop. The lotus leaf rolls off any drop from its surface without getting wet. And such is the beauty of a Karma Yogi who doesn't get affected by sin while remaining in this world and performing all kinds of work, because they are performed in divine consciousness. So all their focus is just in performing their duties in the devotion of God. The next verse is saying, 5.11, so they use their body, senses, mind and intellect to perform the work, to purify themselves, because they know that performing their karms selflessly and in devotion of God will remove all the past karmas and will cleanse his soul from the impressions of previous lifetimes, sanchit karmas. Next verse 5.12, he is saying, Karma yogis attain everlasting peace, while those who work selfishly for personal happiness gets entangled in the karmas and the miseries of this world. And next verse 5.13, he is again giving a beautiful analogy where he is comparing the body with 9 gates. And the verse is, the embodied beings who are self-controlled and detached reside happily in the city of 9 gates, free from thoughts that they are the doers or the cause of anything. So what he means is that while those who have renounced the fruits of their actions are self-controlled and detached and live happily, self-satisfied within their body, comparing it to a city with 9 gates. And these 9 gates are 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, 1 mouth and an anus and genitals. And he's saying 9 gates means Navdware Pure Dehi. Navdware Pure Dehi. This body is a city of 9 gates. So such yogis see their body as just a place with 9 gates where their soul and supreme soul resides happily. And its administration is carried on by prana, which is life energy, mansa, mind, buddhi, intellect, and senses, indriya. And now next verse 5.14, he's saying, this Karma Yogi also knows that whatever is happening in this world or whatever he is doing are not because of God. God is not responsible for anything that is coming to him. So he does not blame God. He knows that all this is presented to him by Prakriti based on his gunas of his karmas. So God does not involve himself in anyone's good or bad deeds. So this is verse 5.15. Agyanen navratam jnanam ten mohantin jantavaha. So the embodied beings are confused because their real inner knowledge is covered by the ignorance, agyanta. And the real knowledge is that he is a tiny fragment of divine God and is eternal and blissful and by superior nature is full of knowledge, but he forgets all this in his endless lust to fulfill his desires. 15th verse can be understood in 2 parts. So the first part is the first line if I read. The omnipresent God does not involve himself in the sinful or virtuous deeds of anyone. So it means that we souls have the free will to choose our actions. God is not responsible for our good or bad deeds. He is like the umpire in a cricket match. He keeps giving the scores like 4 run or 6 run or he's out. But the umpire is not blamed for the decisions. They are based upon the performance of the player. Not only we have free wills to choose our actions, but we also have the complete free will to believe in God or not, to love Him or to fear Him or to hate Him. And God has no interference in that. And I have picked this beautiful example from the book Bhagavad Gita, the Song of God by Swami Mukhananand, and he has explained each and every verse very beautifully. So I highly recommend that book. And now coming to the second part of this verse, the living entities are confused because their real knowledge is covered by ignorance. And the ignorance is because of two reasons. So the one is the gun of the soul, how pure is the soul, or how if it exists in sattva or raj or tamasic category. So how pure it is, or how active it is, or how sloth or destructive it is. This is the first reason of the soul being ignorant. And the second is the nature of Prakriti, the illusory nature of Prakriti. So God's material energy covers it in the darkness depending upon its previous karmas and its gun, the gun of that soul, how pure it is, or how tamasic it is, or how rajasic or passionate towards the desires it is. And when the soul is in ignorance mode, they forget God and they blame God for anything bad that is happening to them. They forget that they have the full freedom to choose their actions, to decide what they want to do or to avoid, and that they have full freedom to take charge of their lives and change it any moment. While some souls, depending upon the gun of their soul, remembers that they have the freedom to take charge, but they take too much pride in their decisions when good things happen to them. It makes them egoistic and proudy, and they think that they are the doers, while it's Prakriti, because of which they could do and reap results of their actions. Such souls are also in ignorance. And now the next verse, 5.16. Here again, God is using an analogy of sun to illustrate his point. Just as sun illumines everything when it rises, dispelling the darkness, in the same way, divine knowledge destroys the ignorance of the darkness within self, revealing the divinity of the soul and the supreme soul that lives within. And this darkness is responsible for creating illusion. For example, again I have picked this example from the book Bhagavad Gita by Swami Mukhananand ji, and he's again explaining with the help of a real life example. In the darkness of cinema hall, the light falling on the big screen creates the illusion of reality, and people get absorbed in watching it for some time, forgetting everything about themselves and around them, forgetting their reality. But when the main lights of the hall are switched on, the illusion is dispelled, and people wake up from this fantasy to realize that this was just a movie, not reality. Similarly, in the darkness of ignorance, we identify ourselves with our bodies, thinking of ourselves to be the doer and enjoyer of our actions. And when the light of God's knowledge shines brightly, the soul wakes up to its true spiritual identity, even while it lives within the city of 9 gates. The soul had fallen into illusion because God's material energy covered it in darkness. The illusion is dispelled when God's spiritual energy illumines it with the light of knowledge. And in the next few verses from 5.17 until 5.26, and in the next few verses also from 5.17 to 5.26, Krishna goes on explaining the consequences of becoming a Karma Yogi, or the benefits of becoming a Karma Yogi. So here in 5.17 verse he's saying, he's actually using 4 terms: Tad Buddhe, those whose intellect or buddhi is towards God, whose intelligence is always in God, and then Tad Atman, whose mind is absorbed in God, Tad Nishtha, who has firm faith in God, and Tad Prayana, who has taken shelter in God. Such persons quickly get released from all their sins through this knowledge, and they get liberated and they don't have to return back on this earth. Verse 5.18, he's saying, situated in the divine knowledge, seeing everything through this knowledge, they see everyone as equal. They see a Brahmin or a cow or an elephant or a dog and a dog eater equal. So he's using the words Vidya Vinaya Sampane. Those who are in divine knowledge are equipped with humbleness, and so they see everyone as equal. He does not look down upon a dog eater or think highly of a Brahmin. He sees them equally, and he treats everyone equally as the creatures of God. And such person conquer the samsara, and he possesses same flawless qualities like God. So this was 5.19 verse. And in 5.20 he is mentioning that they are same in pain and pleasure. And let me give a beautiful story of a farmer and a son. So once there was a farmer and he used to live with his son. And one day a horse came running to them, a wild horse. And everybody came from the village and congratulated farmer on this big deal. And he said, good luck or bad luck, it's all God's will. And after a few days, the horse ran away. So the villagers came and expressed their disappointment and grief. So again, farmer said, good luck or bad luck, it's all God's will. And then few days later, the horse returned up with 20 more horses. So the villagers came and congratulated him. And he said, good luck or bad luck, it's all God's will. So every time something happened, good or bad, he was alike in all the situations. Nothing affected him. And he accepted everything as God's will. So few days later, son's leg broke while riding the horse. So people came and expressed their grief. Oh, such a bad luck. And he said, no, good luck, bad luck, it's all God's will. So he accepted everything as God's will. A war broke out in the kingdom and everybody had to join in this war. But farmer's son didn't have to go to war because of the broken leg. And again, some people came to him and congratulated him for this good luck. So again, farmer said, good luck or bad luck, it's all God's will. He accepted everything as God's will. His attitude was alike in all the situations, and he remained unaffected by any pain or happiness. So that's how a Karma Yogi becomes, when he offers all his fruits of his actions in the service of God, when he is detached from the fruits of the actions. And in next verse 5.21, Lord Krishna is saying, detached from external worldly pleasures, they realize the ocean of divine bliss within and feel unlimited, everlasting happiness. 5.22 verse, he goes on saying, all the objects in this world, all the materialistic things in the world may feel like happiness, but they are very temporary, and happiness received from them is also temporary. They eventually lead to misery and suffering because the lust for them breeds greed and anger in the person and he merely becomes a slave of them. Whereas wise people who have tasted the divine bliss don't find any delight in them. Material happiness is like mud and the spiritual happiness is like a desert for them. And in verse 5.23, he says, before giving up their present body, if someone can control the force of desire and anger, then he is a yogi and he is happy in this world. And not out of fear, but with the ability to make right judgment with the divine knowledge, if someone can keep their desire and anger in control, then such yogis lives in eternal happiness. Verse 5.24, and those who are happy within, enjoying their divinity within, and are illumined within by the inner light, have attained the Lord and are living in freedom from material existence. While living physically in this world, they have attained a higher world in sight. Healed of their sins and conflict, working for all living beings, they attain nirvana, they attain Brahman. So this was verse 5.25. And till now, Krishna was speaking of the Karma Yogis, the path of Karma Yoga. And now, in the next few verses, he's speaks about the path of Karm Sanyas. And now this is verse 5.26 I'm reading. For those sannyasis who have broken out of anger and lust through constant effort, who have subdued their mind and are self-realized, liberation from material existence is both here and hereafter. So until now, Krishna was speaking of Karma Yogi, and this verse he is speaking for the Karm Sanyasis. For the sannyasis who have truly detached from the world, Karm Sanyas is also suitable. For these sannyasis who have actually become free from anger and desires and who are self-realized, self-disciplined, self-mastered, are assured of liberation from this world, just like Karm Yogis. And in the next two verses, 27 and 28, he is saying, shutting out all thoughts of material enjoyment, keeping their eyes and vision fixed between their eyebrows, equalizing their incoming and outgoing breath in the nostrils, and thus controlling the senses, mind and intellect, the sage becomes free from desire and fear and always lives in freedom. He becomes free from the past and the future, and he always lives in present. And in the last verse of this chapter, verse 29, Lord Krishna is saying, having realized me, having known me as a friend of all the creatures, Lord of all the worlds, the ultimate purpose or the end of all the offerings and disciplines, my devotees attain peace. So those are all the verses in this 5th Adhyaya, and quickly recapping what Krishna was saying is that both the path, Karma Yoga and Karm Sanyas, lead to me. But renouncing in action is superior and easy than renouncing of actions. Such people, while living in this world, they are sannyasis inside because they have detached from the actions. They think of themselves as neither the doers nor the enjoyers of their actions. So they are Karma Yogis outside, but sannyasis inside. And Krishna is saying that both the paths can go parallel. One is possible without each other. Because even if a person becomes a Karm Sanyasi or a Karma Yogi, one has to keep performing actions, and it's best and the only way to attain liberation if they perform their actions while being detached to the fruits of their actions. So Krishna is clearly suggesting here that anyone living within this world, within even the Grahast ashram also, amidst this world, can also attain me and the everlasting peace and happiness if he becomes a Karma Yogi. He doesn't have to be a Karm Sanyasi. And those who act in this world without getting entangled in the activities and the fruits of their duties, they attain me quickly. So this was the message of this beautiful chapter, The Path of Renunciation. And the message that Krishna was giving is to keep performing your activities as a Karma Yogi while being detached with the fruits of your actions. So thank you, and I hope you had a great time listening to this chapter, and I'll see you in my next video with next Adhyaya, Adhyaya 6, which is also a beautiful Adhyaya, the Yoga of Meditation, and I'm sure you will love that Adhyaya. And thank you so much. Have a great day. See you again. Bye-bye. Hare Krishna.